Hello everyone, my name's Rendi, or that's what they call me online, and I'm going to be completing, what's it called? Perilous Moons quest at the lowest possible combat level, which was in itself a 100-hour grind. One of the craziest videos I've probably put out yet that just took a lot of technical trial and error as well as actual muscle memory to pull off. Something that took me over 100 hours in total to do, and that was a singular quest at the lowest combat level possible in the game, 3 combat. No one has actually ever done this yet. I don't think anyone's tried because they're not like stupid enough like me. It's gonna take a lot of frustration, deaths, trial and error, all of that, and hopefully you'll learn something today as well as just, you know, be entertained by the process of all of this because it looks absolutely ridiculous. I would say that this goal, I didn't initially think it was going to be this difficult, but it honestly was more difficult for me to complete this personally than the level 3 combat fire cape, the fire cape that's on this account. And if you want to watch other videos on this level 3 account, it is a one-of-one account in many aspects, and I'll put a link to a playlist in the description below as to why that is. It has a fire cape, it has Fremennik Trials, it has Priest and Peril, and now it's going to have Perilous Moons. So it's ranked 1 in many things as a skiller on the skiller Highscores, and it just has a lot of unique items and quests completed. Now with that massive flex past all of you, let's get into the video and see what this is actually all about. And I'm gonna do my best at explaining everything in this video, but honestly, it's a lot. So if there's anything you don't understand, just continue to not understand it. I don't know what to tell you, because you can ask me for help in the comments, but like, it's very difficult to explain things sometimes for myself that are so complex and so ridiculous to where it makes sense to a normal player, because I play this game too much. Okay, I play it way too much, and I do some of the most ridiculous things, and I don't play the game normally. So that's your warning. That's the only warning you're gonna get. Okay, this video is not designed for the noob, but I'll try and make it that way, just for the noobs out there. Before we get into the meat of the video, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the video, which made this all possible. Factor takes the guesswork out of my clean eating, and it cuts down on my meal prep time, which allows me to have no life on RuneScape, as you all will see in today's video. Every purchase I gather with Factor through this sponsorship will help out my channel, so please visit the subscription down below and check out Factor meals. It will help me create more awesome content for you and upload more frequently. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. That means more game time. Or, you know, you can go outside and be healthy for once. You get to choose from a weekly menu of 35 options. 35, that's a lot for a week, okay? So from our sponsor Factor today, by ordering a subscription below, you will literally be getting chef prepared meals on your table or your desk in less than 2 minutes. It also helps you eliminate prepping, cooking, and even cleanup, because these meals are pre-prepared, pre-packaged, ready to go. So what are you all waiting for? Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month's orders using my link. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code with your phone. So yeah, the goal for today's video is to get Perilous Moons completed for the first time ever on a skiller, and to maybe get on the boss Highscores for lunar chests and get 5 kill count. That's the requirement, the threshold for the boss Highscores. We've already done Theater of Blood on the boss Highscores, as well as Barrows, and I believe those are the only 2 I show up on. Unfortunately, I don't show up for Jad, even though I do have 1 kill count, because once again, you need 5 to show up on those boss Highscores. For those who were actually asking me about that earlier and why my account doesn't show up on the skiller Highscores for Jad. In the last video, I was able to complete all the quest requirements for this quest, which were some other quests that actually did have some unique mechanics in them as well, such as using bones to peaches from smuggling a looting bag in a PvP world, destroying it, turning the bones into peaches and consuming those, and recoiling the boss down in that quest, as well as then using some partner slayer to get half slayer XP for the 48 slayer requirement for Perilous Moons quest. So now, because I'm 48 slayer, I can do the first step in the quest, which is killing the Sulfur Nagua. Is that how you say it? I really don't know. We're just gonna go with it. Sulfur Nagua. Sure. Now I did need to get the hit on this NPC to get the kill credit, so I did have to roll the poison dynamite on it. As well, my other account can't even see this NPC. It's instanced to me visibly for some reason, so I did have to just kind of predict where to stand and block myself off with my other account, going out for vengeance and recoil with Guthix Rest, because this thing can actually one hit me if I don't Guthix Rest to 15 over 10 HP. But eventually we did get this done, and we could move on to the actual bosses in the quest and not just that Slayer monster. Okay, so I needed to find a way back to these bosses quickly because I was going to be dying many times. I did do some testing on my Iron Man defense peer that has completed this quest just to go in and kind of scout out the room, but for the most part I want to just keep coming back on the level 3 because it's actually quicker. What I'm going to do is give some of this bird feed to one of the birds, so I'm going to go ahead and use a Ring of Elements teleport to the Earth Altar, then run south to the bird, and from there take another bird to the entrance of the actual mountain underground area. I don't even know what the place is called. Then run all the way through that trek to the boss area for the Blue Moon. The Blue Moon is going to be the first boss we take on. We're just going to do it in complete order of the actual quest and of the actual, you know, lineup there on the right side, and hope that we can get this done as soon as possible. But as you'll find out, and as you can tell probably by the length of this video, it was not as easy as I expected. So this bird route is not optimal, but maybe later we'll find out there is a better path to actually get back after we die, you know, our first 100 times. We'll maybe figure out that we could have saved a lot of time. But for now, we're taking the birds and the Earth Altar teleport from Varrock. So the first question I asked was, can other people help you with this boss? Well, technically, although you see other people in the room, they're not actually helping you at all with the boss. You get to see other people and interact with other people if you really want to, but no, they don't take down your boss's health. The boss inflicts damage upon himself or itself by just damage to you over time. Every time it hits you, it slowly damages itself. And every time it uses a special attack, it slowly damages itself. Actually, more quickly damages itself, unless it's at lower health. The special attack damaging itself is kind of only scaled at lower HP. Also, we're going to need to hit a final 1 damage for this boss kill credit to count, and weirdly enough, it does not have to be a real 1. It can be like a vengeance or a recoil, and luckily in my testing I found out you can technically die to this boss and hit a 1 and still get the kill count because you've still killed the boss. And actually in this case, you will have regenerated HP and survived. So the goal for these bosses is going to be, in general, survive long enough in this room as a level 3 somehow, and then allow these bosses to inflict damage on themselves, then allowing myself to then recoil or vengeance the last fair bit of damage for the rest of the NPC's HP to finally get the kill credit on that moon. And we have to do this for 3 separate moon bosses. So what's kind of cool is, once again, this boss room is not instanced, only the boss itself is. So you can actually trade other people around you in this room and interact with other people, which is going to come into benefit for us later on, because even though this is a level 3, it's not an Iron Man. It can trade people, it can pick up other people's items, it can do anything a normal account can, obviously, besides the fact that it's 1 defense and 10 hit points. The 1 defense and 10 hit points though really did hurt us here. So as a level 3 with only 10 hit points, we can only Guthix Rest to 15 over 10 HP. No other HP boost is going to get us any higher because a lot of the things like Anglerfish and Brew scale based on your base HP level. So 15 HP is as much as we're going to get. And this boss maxes 19s 3 times in 3 ticks. So it can literally hit 19, 19, 19. The damage does scale based on your defense level, but we're 1 defense. And it did overshot our HP even in max defense bonus, unfortunately, with Barehead, Drum and Staff, and all of that. Defense bonus route wasn't going to be an option. I still got slaughtered at 1 defense, and it would almost always overhit my HP. These were also melee attacks happening every tick. That means there was literally 0 clearance for a traditional tick eat because that's only possible with projectiles. You can't just tick eat this boss. So instead we would have to find a way to completely nullify the damage from this boss, but this would also help us later on because Blood Moon is one of the moons we'll have to defeat, and whenever Blood Moon does inflict damage on you, he heals back on himself, so he would out heal and kind of be a counterproductive part to the inflicting damage over time mechanic that we see these bosses have. So there is kind of a mechanic I recently picked up on that a lot of Theater of Blood players actually use for certain things, and that is guzzling a hot rock cake. Guzzling a hot rock cake will automatically drop it to the floor, but in the process, it is a stall, and if you're wearing a Phoenix necklace, then the first damage that's procced onto your character in your damage queue is going to be the damage from the rock cake. So if you're at just the right HP and you lower yourself under the 30% threshold from the Phoenix necklace, this is then going to trigger that Phoenix necklace and then nullify the rest of the damage in the queue, because the first damage to hit your P-neck was from the rock cake, and therefore the P-neck nullifies all incoming damage. That's just a mechanic that P-necks have been using forever. So if I somehow had an infinite amount of hot rock cakes, I could continuously stall damage and null it all with Phoenix necklaces as well that I would need an infinite amount of, and then these rock cakes which would drop to the ground. Picking them back up is another 2-tick stall, and I would have to put on gloves and pick those back up. I wouldn't have time to do this, so I would have to somehow get an infinite amount of hot rock cakes in my inventory, at least long enough to survive the boss. This would be about 14 minutes, and as we'll find out later, even that might not be enough. So this really wasn't feasible. As well, the hot rock cake was an 11-tick stall. It wasn't divisible into the 6-tick attack cycle. If it was 12 ticks, that would be perfect, and I could actually move between the hot rock cake guzzles to each location, because the blue moon here and all other moons have circles you must stand on in order to take damage from the moon itself and not from the area. So yes, there also is area damage. It hits you every 2 ticks, and this scales up from 2, 2, 4, 4, 8, 8, and then finally 16, 16, and it even overshots your HP. Once again, this is not tick-eatable damage, but could I possibly sit in the area away from the blue moon attack cycle and do something similar to the rock cake? Well, I had an idea with this. So you wouldn't be getting the self-inflicting damage on the moon whenever it attacks you by doing this, but you would still get the self-inflicting damage from the special attack phases if you could somehow just sit outside in an area and every 2 ticks nullify damage. Unfortunately, there was many problems with this. I did find a similar method to the rock cake by using a nightshade behind an interface, so my nightshade damage would be triggered behind the interface, proc the P-neck before the actual damage came in, and this wasn't feasible because it turned out P-necks didn't even nullify this damage, weirdly enough. This room damage was separate. I think it's because it was not actual combat damage, it was like an area effect damage. You could literally log out in the middle of taking this damage because it wasn't technically registering you as in combat, therefore it overrided the cooldown of the Phoenix necklace and the damage in the queue. But this led me into yet another theory, and that was, what if I could kind of imitate the hot rock cake, but in another way with something such as this nightshade? There are stackable nightshades nowadays from farming, although it takes forever to accumulate these, picking only between I believe 5 and 16 per every 6 hours. You could technically get thousands of these, and each time you eat one of these, it opens an interface that holds the damage queued on your character. So what if we had that interface still open and we used a stall that was shorter or longer or divisible into 12 instead of, unlike the hot rock cake, being an 11-tick stall? Well, this is where I had the wild idea of trying other stalls behind this interface, and for most of them it worked. There's a problem here though. Many stalls you cannot use in combat, and that's the majority of them. As well, I found, even weirdly enough, that some stalls you cannot use behind interfaces like this nightshade. For instance, I was not able to use any kind of skill cape emote or a cabbage cape emote behind the damage of the nightshade. It just wouldn't trigger anything at all. It wouldn't even kill the interface. Also, I found out this was the same with other objects like a pet rock. I couldn't use any of the stalls from the pet rock without proccing the damage first from the nightshade. But for most items, like say this demonic sigil here, cutting a watermelon, or even chanting from an Easter book, the damage would queue behind the stall, just like our hot rock cake. But instead of having to rely on only an 11-tick stall, we now had one that was possibly divisible into 12. Unfortunately, the egg book from the Easter event, that was a 7-tick stall. So once again, That didn't work out in the cycle of needing to run between the spots and not taking the area damage that was not nulled by the Phoenix necklaces. This just got me killed every single time. The next thing I looked at was Demonic Sigil, and this did work for one singular attack, but after that I was registered as in combat, and like I said, many of the stalls don't work while you're in combat, so I could not reuse the Demonic Sigil. I even did the whole Shadow of the Storm quest up until the last step practically just to get this thing along with the Golem quest, just to find out it was useless. But what's happening here is the Nightshade damage is what's proccing the Phoenix necklace behind the stall as the other damage queues up in that stall. Therefore, the Phoenix necklace procs from the Nightshade damage, which cannot kill your character because almost all self-inflicted damage cannot kill your character, but it'll lower your HP down enough to where it procs the Phoenix necklace and then nulls out the rest of the damage, meaning the Moon boss won't actually be hitting me for anything. It will only be the Nightshade damage that's hitting my character, then proccing the P-neck, nulling the rest of that damage out in the queue. So the Demonic Sigil didn't work, the Easter Book didn't work, Pet Rocks didn't work, Skill Cape emotes didn't work. This was becoming very hard to find a stall that was going to be divisible. Now there was one more, which is just equipping the Easter Ring, which is a one-tick stall, but unfortunately, even though this did not queue off the damage instantly and did allow for me to actually have a one-tick stall into a Phoenix neck proc, well, there's 3 forms of damage coming at me, meaning it would only null the first damage from the 3-tick attack cycle of the Moon. The 2 other attacks could easily kill my character, as you can see here. So at this point, I'm literally meditating on the idea of what is a possible stall item that can be divisible into this attack cycle of 6 ticks and allow me to move between, as well as re-proc a P-neck and get ready for the next damage incoming. Well, there was one solution to this problem. Although very ridiculous, it was cutting a watermelon. Cutting a watermelon was exactly a 3-tick stall, but it made a bunch of junk in my inventory. It gave me watermelon slices that didn't auto drop to the ground like pineapple rings, and it just made me have to drop a lot of things, as well as use 2 clicks instead of 1 by using the knife on the watermelon, along with the other actions of moving as well as eating the Nightshade and sometimes the same tick. So I would have to do 4-way switches perfectly, possibly for 15 minutes. And this just made it not feasible, especially relying on the fact that we have to do this perfectly or we're killing months and months of Nightshades that we're collecting through Belladonna patches and farming. And there was way too much drawback to using this across the entire inventory. As well, I would have to have people possibly dropping me watermelons to do this, and I don't even know if I would have enough watermelons for 1 cycle between special attacks. In the special attacks, there were safe spots to pick up dropped items and to even trade people in some of these moon bosses, but I don't think this was going to happen. It was just too convoluted, although technically possible, maybe with some kind of macro. It wasn't going to be possible by human hands, or at least my human hands, because it was way too convoluted and it required too much organizational skill as well from other people who would have to drop me the watermelon constantly every single cycle and then go back and bank and run all the way back to the moon boss somehow and make it back in time, and then drop me P-necks as well. That's another thing we're going to be focusing on in this video, is the transfer of Phoenix necklaces in these moon boss rooms. This is good because I need Phoenix necklaces and I need a lot of them to survive 15 minutes of this boss fight, and that's going to allow me to have some people who are viewing my stream come and trade me. I had about 2 or 3 people. Shout out to them. It was KDGN, Dark Kiba, and ScottyKnew who helped me the most with this. They were running constantly for literally probably upwards of 50, 60, 70 hours total me Phoenix necklaces, and sometimes even Guthix Rest. They were able to trade me during special attack phases when I basically just ignored the special attack phase, which we'll get into later, and I was able to trade during that time period. So the other possible idea was tick healing with group heal. That still worked. I used it in a video on the feud years ago and discovered that, and it works with a stall if you time it all perfectly. But once again, you would have to synchronize this, and heal group can only be used by 1 person, I believe, every 30 seconds as a cooldown. So you would have to have probably 40 people in the Perilous Moons boss room, which I don't even know if there's a cap. And then you would have to have them exactly precisely tick heal you on just the right moment while you're doing your stall, while I'm cutting a watermelon or something like that. As well, there's sunset moths which heal other people's HP, similar to group heal, that doesn't have a time constriction. You can maybe rely on one person to do this and release these or eat these to heal you during a stall. But I found out testing this on guards that actually, well, you can't tick heal with these moths like you can with group heal for some weird reason. Now, of course, there's normal tick healing that people have used lately, which is literally just waiting for your HP to regen at just the right tick when you get hit. Unfortunately, there's 3 hits here for 1, so you would just get slaughtered, and for 2, you're getting hit every 6 ticks. So you would have to somehow speed up your HP regen timer times 10 plus another 3 times over again. It's just not possible. So I had another idea. If I did not want to waste months of collecting nightshades, I was able to just practice with rock cakes found in the Watchtower quest, the concepts of this, to not waste any of those farming nightshades. But also, I realized I could use a Guam potion unfinished with bat bones grinded in the same capacity, but then I would have to have even more perfect clicks and more people dropping me another insane amount of items on the ground with more coordination from practically strangers. Luckily, ground bat bones are tradable, but they're not sellable in the GE, so I would have to provide a bunch of people with these, have them drop bat bones, Guam potions unfinished, and watermelons and phoenix necklaces, and then I'd have to organize my inventory in between these small special attack times of the moon and do some like 7-way switch that would eventually actually null the damage one time, and then do that like 6 more times over, have somehow enough inventory to do that before gathering more of the supplies off the ground and having like 10s or if not 20s of people actually running me these things and dropping them in the precise locations. This, once again, way too far-fetched, maybe theoretically possible, but look at the inventory here. Just awful. No thank you. So if I was going to waste Nightshade, I needed a stall that was 3 ticks, that was 1 click and wasn't consumable, was more reliable, did not depend on others dropping me the item or me having to death store the item such as watermelon. So I meditated again long and hard and found literally 1 item that could even be used in combat as well, and that was the crate ring. This item is a 3-tick stall, can be used in combat, and can be reused without having to click more than once. It was the perfect item, but I was still a little scared here because I didn't want to waste my Nightshade that I had been farming for months, and it was very hard to get more of these. This crate ring was perfect though. It was divisible into the 6-tick cycle. I just needed to find a better self-damage inflicting item than the nightshades that were stackable. And really the only other item I was thinking of at the time that could work behind an interface, I found out, was the bat bones into the Guam potion with a stackable interface held before the damage procs, like through using this book for instance. And that just wasn't going to work because that's too many clicks, multiple actions in 1 tick over and over again in consecutive ticks, along with movements, and doing that for 15 minutes straight. I'm not the greatest mechanical player, and I definitely could not pull that off. This just wasn't a feasible idea to me. So I messed around some more with some self-inflicting items, and I found something crazy. If you use a self-inflicting item into a stall and you're quick enough in the same tick of hitting the stall as you do the self-inflicting item, no matter what it is, even if it's this Guam potion unfinished bat bone into a stall, then the damage won't come up until after the stall, or even a poison karambuan into a stall, or even a rock cake into a stall. So I can actually proc rock cake damage now, a stackable self-inflicting damage item, which doesn't require months to farm, behind a stall. There was one problem with this though. Any kind of micro lag that happened, the rock cake eat would carry over into the tick of the stall and just not activate at all. So I had to have perfect internet for a 15-minute period of time and do everything perfectly as well. And knowing my internet, this wasn't going to happen except once in a blue moon. No pun intended. One last ditch effort before losing my mind, I decided to just walk around the entire room and see if there was a stray tile around that had no area damage. Kind of like how the older Grandmaster Mortania quest on release had a tile where his second phase would never lightning strike you. I thought maybe there was just one spare tile, but after walking the whole room and getting slaughtered, I realized this definitely was not the case, and we would have to do a unique stall to Phoenix Necklace method with the rock cake to overcome this boss, if that was even possible. At this point in my testing, I had died so many times, but I had finally realized a quicker way to get back to the moon bosses, and that was the calcified moth. You can actually buy this from the GE, and this is actually how I started tracking my deaths to this boss. And let me just tell you off the bat, it was over 1,000 times I died. Yeah, I used over 1,000 calcified moths, and even just the run back from the calcified moth location wasn't the best. There was a bank on the way as well. Every time I died, I would have to go pull out my crate ring back from Draenor because that destroyed on death. So it was a route of using the Eternal Glory to the crate ring, to then possibly even some holiday items I picked just to dress up in, to then the calcified moth, to north, to my gravestone, to pick up some gear, to pick up the rest of my phoenix necklaces, and then head back into the moon boss. Every time this was like a 4-minute prep, and I would have to spend 4 minutes, just getting back to the boss and dying. And sometimes on entry to the boss, you just had an RNG check chance of dying instantly. I finally figured out how to get over this by viewing the room from outside and seeing what cycle the boss was on. Also, I found out if you don't have a weapon equipped during the Blue Moon special attack phase where he takes your weapon, he'll just instantly one-shot you. So I was wondering why I was dying like this all the time, and it was because I literally didn't have a weapon on. So I put on a Swift Blade or a Cursed Goblin Hammer or literally anything so he would take my weapon instead of one-shot my entire HP. So what was the actual process? Okay, the Blue Moon and every moon hits on a 6-tick attack cycle. Now the first hit from a special attack cycle is 10 ticks from the start of the first circle lighting up. On tick 7, I would click the rock cake at 5 hit points. I would always have to make sure I was at 5 hit points in this room. So I would log out exactly whenever I saw the barrier from one special attack pop up, then log back in as soon as possible and start counting ticks. And once it hit about 27 ticks from that barrier pop up, I would go inside the room and my HP would be at just the right regeneration cycle to barely never regenerate in the middle of a tick cycle of using this combination of items here. And that's going to be important because if my HP ever goes over 5 HP in the middle of this cycle, there's nothing I can do. My Phoenix Necklace won't proc at the right time, it won't null that damage that's in the queue from the moon boss, and therefore I'll just get overshot 9 times out of 10 and die from the moon boss. And you'll see this happen actually quite a bit. Although towards the very end, when you hit about 14 minutes into the boss fight, you do have a chance of your HP regenerating back up in the middle of one of those attack cycles. It gets more and more dire as the fight goes on. Therefore, I realized you want to complete this fight as quick as possible. But what is the actual process with the crate ring? So here we go. Whenever a special attack would end, I would count to 10 ticks after the first circle lit up, and that would be whenever the Blue Moon started attacking me. So I would run over to the circle, and on tick 7 I would start the new process of using this combination of items that is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, and good luck following me from here. Okay, tick 7. I would always start with 5 hit points. I would then use my rock cake and go down to 4 hit points on tick 7. On tick 8, I would then use my rock cake to the Phoenix Necklace, both at the same time. So I would now be at 3 hit points, and the Phoenix Necklace would not yet proc because I need to be at 2 out of 10 hit points. I need to be under 20%, or actually the wiki's wrong here. You need to be at exactly 20% or under 20% for the Phoenix Necklace to proc. Then lastly on tick 9 leading into tick 10, I would hit the rock cake into the crate ring on the same tick, and the rock cake should proc after the stall of the crate ring, unless I have some micro lag, which you'll see a lot of later. Whereas the rock cake just wouldn't register after the crate ring went off. Optimally, the rock cake would go off after the crate ring, which would then absorb the 3 attacks because it's a 3-tick attack cycle as well as a 3-tick stall. Therefore, the rock cake would do 1 damage. I would go from 3 to 2 HP and heal back up to 5 HP from the healing benefit of the Phoenix Necklace, and I would be back at 5 HP for the next cycle, where I would instantly, without clearance, start once again. There was a 0-tick clearance for mess up in this entire process, and sometimes you were hitting multiple actions per tick. So the next tick, tick 4, I'd once again hit a rock cake down from 5 to 4 HP. Then on tick 5, I'd hit a rock cake into Phoenix Necklace yet again, which would take me from 4 to 3 HP. Then on tick 6, right before he attacks once again on tick 7, I would hit a rock cake into a crate ring. Once again, I would drop from 3 to 2 HP after the 3-tick stall, proccing the Phoenix Necklace, killing the 3 pieces of damage he would send to me optimally, and then nulling his damage entirely, just solely self-inflicting damage on himself through his auto attacks here. Now it gets even a little more complicated than this. I once again would then have to make sure my HP doesn't regenerate through this whole cycle through that entry timing. As well, I would then move to the new circle to avoid the area damage, which was not able to be nulled through Phoenix necklaces. So then on a new tick 4, I would rock kick move at the same time, so I would have to drag my mouse very quickly across the screen here, click the tile of the new circle, then on the next tick after that, rock kick Phoenix necklace, then rock kick crate ring on the tick after that, into the stall where he attacks me for 3 ticks, and continuously cycle this once again perfectly, not missing a tick, not missing any timing whatsoever or clicks, sometimes hitting 2 actions on 1 tick over and over and over again perfectly for a long period of time, and optimally not having any lag in the slightest. Even a slight increase in ping out of the ordinary would totally null the rock cake into the crate ring, and it just would never proc, and therefore would never proc the Phoenix necklace after the crate ring, killing my character many times over. Just the lag alone killed me many times, but also getting this pattern down, muscle memory, HP regeneration, and my bad entry times into the room itself. There were so many reasons for death, but here's just a few of them. Just a few.
V-neck, rock cake, crate, repeat. 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 Cake, crate, repeat. V-neck, rock 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 cake, crate. Repeat. V-neck, rock cake, crate, 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 repeat. Cake, crate, repeat. V-neck, rock 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 cake, crate, repeat. Cake, crate, repeat. V-neck, rock cake, crate, repeat. V-neck, rock cake, crate, repeat. V-neck, rock cake, crate, repeat.
And no, this is not even all of them or even a major fraction of them. I died to this one moon boss, like I said, over 1,000 times. Yeah, 1000, like almost 1,100 actually. At first, the muscle memory part was the most difficult. It took me hours just to get past the first cycle of attacks and moving, along with doing this 3-tick cycle with 5 to 6 actions in those 3 ticks. It was a lot to get down. At one point, some guy in my chat even bet me 100 mil that I couldn't make it past the first cycle to the first special attack. Oh god, I forgot to talk about special attacks. This is another beast in itself. So like I said, you'll need a weapon on or else he'll just one-shot you. Then once you have that weapon removed, there's a few safe places around near the icicles where you don't actually have to attack them, so I don't have to risk XP and ruin my level 3 account. I can just sit here in a safe zone, and this is optimally where someone would come trade me Phoenix necklaces if I needed them, or Guthix Rest, or something like that. I would then lower my HP to 1 during this icicle phase, because I would have to tick eat a ball. Yes, thankfully it was tick eatable. This ball only comes out at you if you do not do any damage to the icicles and do not break one, which obviously I'm not doing damage, I don't want XP, so instead I'm going to tick eat with a Guthix Rest with 1 HP, therefore going up to 6 HP. The ball will then optimally hit me for 1 HP, not 0. It can hit a 0. I have had to re-rock cake after tick eating the ball before going into the new 10-tick, 7-tick cycle to start a new wraparound of this NPC to the next special attack. But yeah, I would optimally be at 5 HP for the next cycle and get into groove once again, put my muscle memory into gear, and do that crazy cycle again into the next special attack. And then we have the second special attack. Each of the moons have 2 separate special attacks. Unfortunately for me, because we're going down the list in order, the blue moon actually had the most difficult set of special attacks. Originally, when the blue moon came out, it actually was pretty easy. I saw a 10 HPer do it, and I was like, wow, these special attacks, it really just lowers itself. He didn't even have to run to the braziers on each side and light them, because it would damage itself no matter its HP level. But as I saw, there was a patch note a week later on the wiki that you can see here. It now scales its special attack damage infliction on itself. So I would actually have to run tornadoes, and towards the end, perfectly run them as fast as possible, just brute force it to the other side of the brazier, light it as quickly as possible, and then run all the way back to the other side and just hope I did not get hit by a tornado. 1, because it could kill me, but 2, because it would heal more than I was damaging it. So I would have to have this happen towards the end of the fight, 2 out of 3 tornado phases, to where I had just perfect RNG, where none of the tornadoes hit me and slowed me down even for a tick. Or else it would be impossible to kill this boss. Yeah, 2 out of the 3 of the last tornado phases, I would just need pure luck. And this is something that happened maybe 25% of the time. So I would have to hit 25% 2 times out of 3 times, which after spending 15 minutes of in the zone tick manipulation, as well as no lag and movement patterns and relying on other people to bring me those necklaces, shout out Scotty, shout out OGs, shout out Kiba, once again, this was going to be a beast in itself. Now, there were ways with rock cakes and other stalls that I could get to each side of the brazier safely actually and never die, but they were just too slow. The rock cake stall was too long. I needed to literally brute force run my way across each side as fast as physically possible so that the blue moon did not get that last 10 HP health back on himself, because the scaling was so messed up after that patch. It literally would heal like crazy compared to what it would inflict on itself towards the end of its hit points. So even though in some of these clips it looks like I'm getting close under half HP on the blue moon, through most of those encounters I'm not actually even a 10th of the way done. Control clicking here made it also the only way this was possible, by spam clicking the other side and control clicking as soon as I got hit to turn my run back on, because the tornadoes do turn your run off, but control clicking and re-clicking will actually turn your run back on if your walk is on. So I did use control click here, and it was a make or break honestly, and allowed me to get to the other brazier in time for even another heal, so that I wouldn't have to wrap around again for another 3 or 4 times. And eventually, like I said, we were on a time limit here. If we did not get this done quick enough, our HP would regenerate during the middle of a cycle towards about 14.5 minutes and kill our account no matter what we did. Once again, huge shout out to KDGN, Scotty Doesn't Know, and Dark Kiba here for running me Phoenix necklaces for literally almost like 30 or 40 hours. It required at least 2 of them to do it to make it back to the bank in time, and they would just come in and use calcified moths after they traded me. Eventually they could only trade me during the icicle cycle because I found out I did need to run those tornadoes. At the beginning I thought I wouldn't need to, and in the tornado phases as well, I barely got back in place and at 5 hit points after running them. I also had to make sure my Phoenix necklaces were properly placed in my inventory around the outside of the rock cake and crate ring and near the edge whenever readying myself to run through another cycle of the NPC's attacks. So I figured out how to mitigate this RNG a little bit and only need actually 1 of the 3 perfect runs to the tornado, and that was the last one. And then I could actually go ahead and stall the last hit of the NPC theoretically here to where he then lowers his HP at the brazier and I do the recoil and vengeance after he lowers his HP at the brazier, meaning I need a longer stall that I can use in combat, kind of like the egg book we looked at earlier. So the idea was to egg book stall the very last damage before he goes into his tornado phase where he lowers himself, but before he starts being able to heal himself, and then recoil that last damage after the stall goes through from the egg book. And yeah, the tornado running was not fun, as you can see here, but eventually, after about 60 hours, the Blue Moon boss was done, and it was done with that extremely convoluted method, even slightly adjusted at the end, where I stalled into his last tornado phase, so I didn't have to run that perfectly another 2 times in a row.
My heart's beating like a million fucking miles an hour, brother. Just give me the fucking necklaces. Get me the fuck out of here.
Yes! Yes! Fuck yes!
Okay, so now we have the experience of actually doing this rock cake, crate ring, neck, repeat cycle. This is going to be great for the blood moon, because if the blood moon actually was hitting me and not my own self-inflicting rock cake into a p-neck, he would be healing off of all the damage he did to me, making this virtually impossible. That's why the blood moon is so difficult for people with 1 defense and even max stats, because it's literally just constantly healing off them, and its damage scales on you based on your defense level, and we are 1 defense. So even if there was a way to tick this one right here, we would need to resort back to the Phoenix Necklace stall method, because he would be out healing his self-inflicting damage easily if he was hitting me every single attack. So luckily we already have the process down, and we still have OG, Scotty, and Kiba helping us out, but this time it's a little different. They're not going to have the clearance to trade me the necklaces like they did in the Blue Moon boss. In the Blood Moon room, I decided to tell them to drop the Phoenix necklaces on the ground during the Blood Pool phase, where I'll cycle around the highlighted circle that's about to come up, and in that 4 tile area pick up Phoenix necklaces. So I also have to let them know exactly about 60 seconds when that special attack phase comes up. That's when they should drop these, because it's 60 seconds till you see other people's drops in the room. But the special attacks were a bit different here. I had to time perfectly stepping in and out of the actual tiger phase special attack. I also had to get to that location as soon as possible because there was not much clearance there. And finally I had to get back to the new highlighted tile as quick as possible as well, because that was sometimes across the room. It was completely random which tiger you had to go to. You just had to react very quickly there. But luckily, no, you don't actually have to hit the tiger, although this would be doing more damage to the Blood Moon boss. I couldn't do that because once again that would give me XP, and I'm 3 combat, not trying to get XP here. So we will walk in and out in front of the tiger, but not actually do any damage to him. And while we're doing this, once we finally get this down, as you can see, it takes me a while to develop the muscle memory to do these new special attack phases, but we'll be able to start sorting our Phoenix necklaces as well while we're moving back and forth for the next normal attack cycle and readying ourselves for that crate ring combo. The blood pool special attack also was a little bit complicated. At times I could get very unlucky and just too many pools could spring up next to the Phoenix necklaces. Also, the circle that was highlighted was done very quickly after the special attack, quicker than all of the others by far. So that is why I kind of wanted to stay around that tile whenever doing this, and that's why I had them drop the Phoenix necklaces in that location. Lag still happened, deaths from special attacks still happened, and just me misclicking still happened because the process is multiple actions in one tick over and over again, having to be timed perfectly with 0 clearance for over 10 minutes. Not quite 15 like the Blue Moon, but it was about 11 minutes, I believe, on the Blood Moon for a kill of all this perfection to line up. And with my internet, it was not fun.
Rendi the bug abuser, he's a level 3. Clicking rock cakes, p-necks endlessly. Laggy internet while stalling. Crate ring, he's hauling. Keep a Scotty and OG by his side, standing tall on a perilous night. They can run, but they can't hide. They must fight under the moonlight. Rendi the bug abuser screams tonight. He's died almost 1,000 times. 1,000,000 trades have been made. He will defeat the moons without a blade. Rendi the bug abuser screams tonight. He's died almost 1,000 times. 1,000,000 trades have been made. He will defeat the moons without a blade. Rendi the bug abuser screams tonight. He's died almost 1,000 times. 1,000,000 trades have been made. He will defeat the moons without a blade. Rendi the bug abuser screams tonight. He's died almost 1,000 times. 1,000,000 trades have been made. He will defeat the moons without a blade. Rendi the bug abuser screams tonight. He's died almost 1,000 times. 1,000,000 trades have been made. He will defeat the moons without a blade.
So yes, of course, there was many deaths as well. I had to time my entry and relog for my hit points, but there was yet another problem with this boss, even besides just messing up so many times and lagging so many times. This boss has a different attack cycle time. Eventually, no matter when I relog at the start and when I enter, I'm always going to have my HP regenerate on one of his auto attack cycles. Typically, if I do this, it's going to be towards the end though, around 140-ish HP if I stick to my current relog cycle. There's only one way to overcome this, healing to 6 HP in the middle of an attack cycle, and that is by hitting a Nightshade instead of a Rock Cake in the process, but doing the same combination. So Rock Cake P-Neck, and then Nightshade Crate Ring, because the Nightshade will hit 2 damage instead of 1 at 4 hit points, then proccing the Phoenix Necklace from 2 back to 5 hit points, resetting my ability to start using the Rock Cake yet again. It was kind of hard to switch up the muscle memory though after doing this for about 70 hours at this point with just the Rock Cake. So I did fail this a few times, but eventually after getting it down to around 140 HP about 4 or 5 times, I finally hit the Nightshade properly and then continued on with the process properly, eventually getting the kill here on the Blood Moon, which was surprisingly way easier than the Blue Moon, although it still took roughly about 10 hours to complete this boss.
Never use a messy P-neck. The Rock Cake will end up crazy. If you click the crate ring by the book, then you'll have a KC. A piece of cake to click a rock cake. If the tick is lagging, you gotta do the stalling by the book. You know you can't be lazy. Never use a messy P-neck. The rock cake will end up crazy.
Okay, so the last moon for Perilous Moons, the Eclipse Moon. Luckily, we have the technical ability now and the muscle memory built up. With the Rock Cake, P-Neck, Ring, Repeat strategy, the muscle memory is there. It is ready to go. But once again, we face new challenges, new special attacks, and new muscle memory to overcome those special attacks, and new areas to stand in and how to move. The slightest difference in this after doing it for so long in one way really is hard to overcome and readjust your brain to. At least my brain, probably because it's a little bit slow. I can only think creatively, I can't always do creatively. So the middle reflective mirror special attack in the Eclipse Moon room does actually have an issue. No matter what weapon you use, even if it's a negative 100 crush bonus weapon like a cursed goblin hammer, as you can see here, you still have the possibility to hit this NPC. There is no splash weapon, except if you use no arrows with a bow. This actually works. It does not do any damage, but also deflects and parries the damage, so you never get damaged. Now, if I missed one parry with my 10 hit points or even 15 boosted, I'm dead instantly. There is another route I could take. Because this boss has attacks every 2 ticks and crab meat has only a 2 tick cooldown, I could constantly eat crab meat and spam it for 3 attacks in a row over and over again and tick eat this boss's attacks rather than parry it. But I found out parrying was quite a bit easier and you wouldn't have to readjust your timing between each of the 3 reflective phases of the moon. So we did that. We parried the boss with a bow and no arrows, although once again, lags, ping spikes, my ping being so bad here made me have to click as soon as possible when I saw that new boss, and sometimes I just didn't turn in time, and sometimes I even just clicked late because I'm slow a bit, you know, and we died a lot of times on this boss. During the mirror phase as well, whenever I'm standing in the center, there are a little bit of ticks of clearance between new NPCs being summoned in that phase. Therefore, I had once again Scotty, OG, and Kiba drop me Phoenix necklaces in the very center of that room, and they did this 60 seconds before, which I had to calculate out, which was during the sphere special attack, which I'll talk about next. They had to come in at just the right moment and drop those Phoenix necklaces in the exact center of the room so I could pick them up during that mirror special attack phase. So the next special attack phase was the giant sphere. I found out you don't want to run this thing. Although you can tick eat the attacks once again with maybe something like crab meat, that's just more inventory and more items I'll need to have people drop me over, and I'm just going to avoid that as much as possible. So whatever I do, instantly whenever he whacks you into place, I put my run back on and then wait 3 exact ticks before moving. This allows me to control, click, and walk around the entire sphere on all edges and never get hit. Now I did find out there was one flaw towards the end of this process, and that was that you can actually get put in the wrong tile and it still thinks the sphere is in the room even though it visibly disappears, and you click a tile you want to move to, it just doesn't register it as a real tile because it thinks there's an object there. So I learned this the hard way many times and died running to the wrong tile even though I clicked the right tile, and I wasn't able to get into place very easily on some of these new auto attacks right after the sphere. Although I did eventually get adjusted to the new timings of switching between the special attacks and auto attacks on both ends of these special attacks, and was able to get into place and start the cycle timing at 7 out of 10 ticks after the newly highlighted circle on the ground was to appear. I used sound cues for a lot of this one. I even used a plugin where I could disable some sound IDs somewhere in RuneLite plugin hub. This made it a bit easier to actually hear the circle highlight up from the ground up. So we continued to take on this last boss, once again with many deaths. No, this only took me about 5 to 6 hours though, but I wanted to complete this last boss in a special way. I wanted to once again, classically, sacrifice strength XP for a combat task that no level 3 had done, obviously, because no level 3's done this quest. That combat task was the clone zone, which gave some decent points and involved only killing the Eclipse Moon while doing damage to its clone phase. So I needed to do 1 damage to the clone phase, and I decided that should be the last damage or else I wouldn't want to waste strength XP. So I waited until the boss was completely at 1 HP, went through an extra cycle on it, and then finally hit the one with a cursed goblin hammer during the clone phase, which allowed me to finish off the Eclipse boss as well as the clone zone task, and therefore was the last checkoff for all 3 bosses. For now, we're actually going to come back and kill this one a few more times. Anyways, we went ahead and finished Perilous Moons after about 100 hours total combined time of muscle memory, testing, failures, all of that good stuff. We were the first level 3 to complete this quest, being the lowest possible combat in Oldschool Runescape. Once again, taking things to the next level, the next extreme. Just the theory crafting alone in this video was my favorite part. Not dying for 70 hours straight, that wasn't my favorite part. Doing the research is always my favorite part of little things like this, but it's not over yet, okay? There is something called lunar chests on the Highscores, and there's no level 3 on the Skiller Highscores ranked in this. Fortunately, we only have to kill 1 moon to loot the chest. It's kind of like barrows. You don't have to kill all of them to loot the chest to get a kill credit. So I'm going to kill the easiest moon 4 more times to show up as rank 1 and the only one on the level 3 Skiller Highscores with lunar chests completed, because I'm the only one who's done this quest. who can even get the KC. We already had the 1 KC, which was an initial combat task from this quest that we collected right after, but I still had to get 4 more. So we went back to the Eclipse room. This room was just the easiest. It was like a 10-minute kill. The special attacks were a little bit easier. I could reorganize the Phoenix necklaces pretty easily while walking the sphere as well. I could pick up the Phoenix necklaces in the middle during the other special attack pretty easily. My only really problem here was once again just choking at the last possible moment and some lag and just choking some more.
First I click the rocket, then I click to move, then I click the rocket again, then I click the peanut, then I click the rocket again, then I click.
But eventually after 2 to 3 more hours, we got 4 more kills at the Eclipse Moon. Added 4 more chests onto our kill credit here, and now we were the first level 3 on the Skiller Highscores to have 5, which also I believe granted another combat achievement task, which I'm going to take as many combat points as I can on this account, of course.
That's how I did the Perilous Moons quest.
So lastly, once again, huge shout out to all of you for watching, but a bigger shout out to OG4KG or KGDN, Dark Kiba, and lastly ScottyKnew for literally farming me Phoenix necklaces and taking calcified mods back and forth to the bank for literally like 60 hours. Thank you guys for being my personal slaves practically for 60 hours. These people are amazing. They were super friendly along the way too. I got to chat with them a lot of the time. I got to meet a lot of new people while streaming this content, and it was a very enjoyable experience. Although frustrating at times, I learned a lot and we got it done. The first level 3, the lowest level in old school RuneScape. So now we have rank 1 in mini boss KC on this account as a level 3 that other level 3s can't even get. This account is coming along nicely. I do have some plans for it in the future, but the next video is going to be a RuneScape Classic video. So after that though, maybe some Defense Saga, maybe some level 3 stuff, I don't know. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos on this channel. Once again, subscribe to the channel if you did, like the video, give me some interaction, I don't know. Shout out to my Patreon supporters, and I'll talk to y'all next time. See you on Classic.